Okay, get a close shot of the fireplace. That's always cozy. Now you can pull it there, move around the room a bit. There's some plants and the furniture. And if you move around here, you'll see, I guess, what could be considered the gay version of the nuclear family. This is my lover, Herb De Silva. Hi once again. Here's our dog, Betty Boop. And this is our home. We've been here for a year and a half, did some renovations. We're quite comfortable. Well, now that the interview is over and we've talked about my qualifications and your expectations for the position of producer-host for XTV, I think it's important that I demonstrate, using television, since that's the medium we're talking about, exactly what you can expect if you hire me. Now, whoever you hire is going to have to produce, organize, delegate, do all the things that producers do. And I hope that during the interview, I was able to convince you that I'm capable of doing just that. Why don't we move into the kitchen for a bit? But you're not hiring a producer, you're hiring a producer/host. And so the person you pick is not only going to have to produce, but also will have to present himself or herself on camera, not only professionally, but also informally. I think it's important that that person come across as being very approachable. The person watching should get the feeling that the host could be his or her friend. It's not that difficult to do, and over the next few minutes, I hope to prove that I have the ability to do just that. Now, to enhance this approachability thing depends on the format of the program. I think it should be modular in nature, made up of segments with the host introducing each one. The key is to put that host on the road. Where the host is located could be almost anywhere. It's a big community, or village, or ghetto, or whatever you wish to call it. And there's plenty of parks and bars and buildings and corners. As producer-host of XTV, I'm willing to do my job from every one of them. It's a good idea, not only because it looks good, but because it gives the show that added visibility needed, especially at the beginning, to tweak people's interests and to get them to watch. I've discussed this earlier, and we also talked about it during the interview, the modular nature of these programs. I'd like to expand on that a bit. The advantage of a modular format are many. One, of course, it makes the programs easier to organize and plan. Secondly, the modules are easier to save and file for archival purposes and for those best of XTV programs you'll be wanting to do in the future. Thirdly, any individual or organization who put an effort into creating one of these modules might like to use them on their own at a meeting or a get-together of that organization. And finally, as producer, I would be keen on developing a network with other national and international organizations who are also developing gay-positive television programming. Having a library of these segments and a television show based on them would make it very easy to import or export segments from just about anywhere. Let's talk about the content of these segments. Now, I understand a number of people have expressed an interest in this project and have forwarded a number of ideas. Each one of those will have to be examined individually. But there are a number of obvious topics I think should be covered in almost every program. X News I see as a newscast. It doesn't need to be very long and as up-to-date as production times and schedules will allow. The producer-host preferably would not do this job, but I can see him or her interacting with the newscaster. The newscast would need a set build, and it would take place in a studio. X Canada would most often be a part of X News and look at stories and events happening in this country, but outside of the Toronto community. If the story warrants, it could be a feature or an imported piece from another production source. X World. Same idea as X Canada, but focusing on international stories. X Politics. This could be part of a newscast, but it's such an important topic, I predict that almost every program will include a feature which deals with how politics is either hindering or helping us lead the lives we would like. From interviews with politicians and activists to documentaries, there's a lot of ground to cover here. X Speaking Out. This is one of my favorite ideas. I like to use the example of City TV's Speaker's Corner. Now, I don't propose building a booth or installing a TV camera, but I do propose publicizing when and where XTV will be, and then inviting people to come on down and speak out. Granted, it would be an experiment, but I believe the results would make for some interesting television. X Health is another topic that could appear in almost every program. With the various AIDS committees around Metro, the Toronto PWA Foundation, McEwen and Casey House, plus constant updating of research material and input from national and international sources, There's a lot of very important material to be covered here. X Sports. Now this is a topic that needs to be covered, but I don't see it showing up on every program. The same with X Fitness. It's important, but only on special occasions. That being said, there's a world of information available when it comes to fitness tips, and a few well-built men and women in tights would never hurt the ratings, if you know what I mean. Now, when it comes to sports, there's a few events that would warrant extensive coverage. The Gay Games in New York next year would be a good example. It may be worthwhile to cover those events, plus updates on how the Toronto community is preparing itself for that competition. Ex-religion. Now, this topic also shouldn't show up on every show. However, it's important to maintain a working relationship and talent pool in the religious community that can be drawn on when the need arises. Ex-arts. There's more material here than can possibly be covered with a program of this nature. X-Arts on XTV would function the same as an arts or entertainment section of a newspaper would. The chances of an occurrence happening on each program are very high. XPSA. These can act as bridges between segments of the program. Simply put, they are public service announcements produced at Pink Triangle's expense to promote non-profit organizations, events, and health-related messages. Maybe it's because I'm a musician, or maybe it's because I've spent my entire career playing other people's music on the radio. Whatever it is, I feel strongly that XTV should feature a lot of gay music in these programs. There's a lot of very talented individuals and groups that could use the exposure, and I would like to see one featured in every program. I have an example of this coming up in a few minutes, but right now I would like to briefly review my qualifications for this position. I have 15 years of experience on air working with private radio companies here in Toronto and in the Maritimes. I graduated from Ryerson after winning 3 broadcasting awards and a scholarship. I am the sole proprietor of Austin Works, an audio-video production company since 1983. I've worked as program director for 2 different cable television companies, in charge of all community broadcasting. I'm an active member of the gay community in Toronto. First of all, I am a singer-musician for Singing Out, the lesbian and gay chorus of Toronto. Could we stop these graphics for a minute, please? Thank you. By the way, how do you like those graphics? Just one idea I came up with. We can talk about graphics and musical bridges and special effects, all that stuff, later. What I was thinking was, I'm making all these claims to have done all these things. You could be sitting there saying, well, where's the proof? Well, Singing Out, for instance. They rehearse at the Metropolitan Community Church on Simpson Avenue, and that's where we are. They rehearse on Thursday nights. And, well, isn't that a coincidence? It is Thursday. They're rehearsing right about now. I have my Singing Out t-shirt on, my Singing Out badge, and they rehearse right through this door. So let's go in and prove a point. Oh, great. They haven't started yet. I was running a little bit late. This is the bass section over here. This is where I normally sing. Oh, there's John. John Schrag, my good friend. He's the director of Singing Out. Hi, John. It's Doug. How you doing?
Excuse me. We're doing a rehearsal here. I think maybe you're in the wrong room. But
John, it's Doug, Doug Austin. I'm a member. You know him from last year, John.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. We're doing a rehearsal.
Come on, guys. It's Doug. Who are you? I don't believe this. Come on. Doug, remember me in the bass section? Doug, David, we drove to Peterborough together last summer. Don't you remember that? I can't believe this. Maybe I'll have better luck with Fruit Cocktail. I am currently rehearsing with Fruit Cocktail. It's their 10th anniversary, and they're gearing up for a big 2-week run at the Winter Garden in December. I'm married a rich chiropractor. Married a rich chiropractor. Okay, so it's up, down, and make it easier that way.
Sorry, it's down, up, down, up.
I was posed in jeans, full of fats, blue like me.
Okay, hang on. It's a bit more like that. Right now, we're more interested in the ads than we are in the other, okay?
What about the economy of movement down here?
This is the economy, but it's just a T, it's like boom, boom.
I mentioned earlier my desire to showcase a lot of gay music on XTV. Here's an example of the talent available. This is Diane Leah.
Friends I can count on,
I can count on one hand the left of a finger or two. I took them for granted, let them all slip away. Where they are, I wish I knew. They roll by just like water, and I guess we never learn. Draw through life, parched and empty, stand and leave me to the river, die in the sun.
Hopefully, over the last few minutes, I've been able to demonstrate that I am the right person for this job. It's one that requires imagination and discipline. It requires organizational skills and people skills. It requires working strange hours and often long hours. It requires delegating and being responsible for your decisions. And don't forget, there's a good chance the person you choose will, to a certain degree, become a spokesperson for your organization and will need to deal with all aspects of the media. I have these skills, and I'd like to use them on this project.
In a river.